Call this regular board meeting of the Vallecitos Water District to order. We're going to have, as our guest speaker today, Brooke Sinella will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Brooke, come on up to the podium.
Right there. That's
Perfect, right there.
Turn this way. Towards the flag.
Ready? Begin.
I
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good job. Thank you very much, Brooke. And as you may or may not know, that's the daughter of our director, Michael Sinella. Great job, Mike.
Thanks.
Mom, great job, Mom. And if you haven't met Michael's wife, that's Michael's wife there, and she's also the vice principal of Nob Hill Elementary School. Great. Roll call, please.
It will be noted that Directors Evans and Commanders are absent.
They are.
Director Kettle,
Here.
Director Snell,
Here.
Director Martin,
Here. And two are missing. Because we have a limited, we're going to make some changes. To adopt the agenda for the regular meeting, we're going to make some changes before we ask for adoption. We're going to pull items 3.1, 3.5, 3.6, and table them to the next meeting. Checking with our general manager, none of them are time sensitive. So with that in order, we're looking for a motion to adopt.
So moved.
I'll second.
All in favor, aye? Aye.
Aye.
Adopted, thank you. Oral communications, I have nothing, so no one wishes to speak orally. We're all staff, I think. Notice the public don't need. Approval of minutes, 1.1. Need a motion?
You can do the consent calendar as one motion.
Consent calendar, one item, 1.1, 1.2, and 1.3.
Correct.
Move to approve.
I'll second.
Roll call?
Director Kettle,
Yes.
Director Snell,
Yes.
Director Martin,
Yes. Okay. Item 2.1. This is the time and place for a hearing to consider adoption of resolution of the Vallecitos Water District approving the sewer service fees to be collected on the tax roll for Improvement District A for the fiscal year July 1, 2014 to June 30th, 2015. General Manager Land, will you please provide us with the details?
Yes, thank you, Chair Martin. On an annual basis, the Water District collects the sewer, monthly sewer service charge for areas that we provide sewer service only. These are areas like the Bennett Orchard area along Bennett Avenue, the mobile home park south of La Marie, and a couple areas like that. These are areas where, in this case, Rincon Water District provides water service to the mobile home parks, and the Vista Irrigation District provides the water service, the potable service, including fire protection. It's the same monthly service charge that every other residence receives, so there's no difference in the fees, it's the same rate. But because we have no way to enforce collection, if we were to send a monthly bill on the sewer and they don't pay the monthly sewer bill, it's kind of hard to turn off a sewer lateral. The only way that that can be done is actually going through a condemnation process, which would not be in anybody's benefit for the district or the ratepayer. This is something the district has been doing for about 30 years. We collect the sewer charge on the tax roll, and then the county actually provides the payments to us as they receive the tax increment. So this is just a hearing that we're obligated to have every year to let the public know that we do this. I think for the time that I've been doing this, we have had no speakers that actually come in before the board to talk about it. I'd be happy to answer any other questions on this.
Any member of the board have any questions for staff? No? Any member of the public have any questions of staff or employees? No. There being no persons wishing to address the board, the hearing is closed. Does any member of the board of directors have any further questions or discussion? Seeing none, does any member of the board of directors wish to move adoption of the resolution of the board of directors of the Vallecitos Water District approving the collection of sewer fees on the tax roll for Improvement District A for fiscal year 2014-2015?
So moved. Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Director Kettle,
Here.
Yes. And here?
Yes.
Yes. Thank you very much. Okay, we move on to 3.2, approval of construction agreement for Red Oak Road water and sewer relocations.
Mr. Scholl will address this with the board.
Thank you, Mr. Lamb. Good afternoon, President Martin, members of the board. Here in regards to the approval of a construction agreement for Riddell Road, water and sewer relocations. Basically, the purpose of this is because the existing facilities are in the way of potential development just off of private Riddell Road. The intent is to move these a bit to the east here, and we're talking about 163 to 8-inch water line to be replaced with 12-inch main, and 177 feet of 8-inch sewer main to be replaced with 8-inch main. There's going to be no water and sewer services to be constructed as part of this project, therefore there's no capital facility fees that are collected. All the engineering and inspection fees have been paid, as has a cash payment in the amount of $83,254 in lieu of performance and payment bonding. With that, staff recommendation is to approve the construction agreement for Riddell Road water and sewer relocations. I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Where do we get these maps from? Is this a little outdated?
These are from our GIS system.
Right?
Are you talking about the aerial behind it?
The aerial.
Yeah, aerial is about a year or two old, yeah.
We're actually in the process of obtaining new photos with the group that we work with to do that.
Do we pay for that, or is that something we get? Is
We
that
pay for it.
Very expensive?
15,000? Rob, how much that is?
Yeah, it's about
Thanks.
10 to 15,000.
I think our share with the group we do is about $10,000 to $15,000.
And we update every 2-3 years, or?
About that, yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
Thank you. Any questions?
No.
Move to approve?
Okay.
I'll second that, but I did have a follow-up question.
Please.
So we pay about $15,000 a year for the aerial views? Is that what you guys were discussing?
Yes, approximately 10 to 15,000.
Okay, how are they different or better than just using Google Maps?
We've actually
Or
had
Google's
that
are-
discussion there. We're in, like Mr. Lamb says, we're in the process of potentially looking at other alternatives here for the future.
Okay.
Historically, we've done it because what we found is the orthophoto is okay. But then we have the topography that goes underneath it, which is a different layer. There's a thing called orthorectified. It's to where it's actually brought down to earth level to where everything, parcels, GPS lines, not GPS, but the coordinates of everything. If you take just Google Earth and you start bringing it down to put it into detail on what we're doing, the two don't jive.
Doesn't work out?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob.
It would be missing the orthorectifier?
That's it. Yeah, that'll be in next year's budget.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Did we get a vote on that? We need a roll call.
Need a roll call vote. Thank you. Have a motion and a second. Roll call, please. Thank you.
Yes.
Dr. Sinella?
Yes.
Dr. Martin?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rob.
Thank you. 3.3, good news, actually. Ordinance for administrative charges to recover indirect costs for fiscal year 2014, 2015.
Will John address the board?
Oh, you're going to take the accolades
Yes.
for overestimating last year.
This is the first, right?
Yeah.
Director Martin, President Martin, members of the board. Excuse me, back in August 2013, the district adopted the cost of service study. It included a method to calculate the annual overhead rate to recover the indirect costs that are incurred. The cost of service study recommended a single overhead rate that's applied to the direct labor costs incurred and adjusted annually using the approved district budget. This, the resolution that you have, the ordinance that you have has the new rate in it, the recommended rate of 188% from 195 in the previous fiscal year. And the rate was calculated using the recommended method that was in the report. Staff recommends that the board consider and adopt the proposed ordinance, repealing ordinance 182 and adjusting the overhead rate. And I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, board have any questions? I do. dumb this down for me, and let's make this simple. Someone calls up and they want their service hooked up on Saturday. We don't normally hook up on Saturday, but we could hook up on Saturday, I'm guessing. Explain to me the charges and how they're figured out.
The charges are a time and material basis, and what we would do is we would charge the labor, and then we would add this overhead rate to it, and the materials would be charged at the materials rate.
Okay, so if the labor rate were $100,
Okay.
then we would go 188% of that, and that would then include administrative and everything else that's necessary in order to make that truck go out there.
Precisely.
That makes sense, thank you very much. Same thing, gonna need a motion if there are no other questions?
Yeah, move to approve as presented by
And that's
staff.
a reduction of 7%, so
That's correct.
it's a good thing.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Director Polo?
Yes.
Director Snell?
Yes.
Yes. 3.4, report on 20/2020 water use reporting.
Tom will approach us, direct this one to.
Oh, here come more words.
Good evening, Director Martin and board members. We have before you on, I think it's on page 30, I didn't bring it with me, but on page 30, a staff report on 20/2020 tracking. And this has to do with Governor's proclamation. Governor Schwarzenegger in November 2009 signed into law what we refer to as SBX 7-7, and that was a long-term look at conserving water. So they gave us a mandated target of 20%. We have to reduce water by 20% by the year 2020, which we're a little bit above that target now, but there's an interim target at 2015 that we're well below. If you look at the graph, and it's up here on the screen as well, this is a chart that we use and update continually for when we have updates to population numbers and when we have updates to production numbers as well. The SBX 7-7 refers to gallons per capita per day. So we actually have to look at population in the denominator. You know, so what is one individual on average using every day? How many gallons of water are they using every day? And how this works is there was some specific guidance in SBX 7 to say, how do you calculate the gallons per day per capita, and what is your target going to be? And it allowed a little bit of flexibility in saying, look at years 2004 through 2008. What's the average in each of those years? What's the 10-year average of gallons per capita per day? And it allows you to use whichever one you want. And obviously, we picked the most favorable one. The highest one is 199.2. So pre-drought, pre-recession, our average gallons per capita per day, the average person, individual used 199.2 gallons per day. And what Governor Schwarzenegger said is, we want to chop that down. We want to reduce that by 20% by the year 2020. So a reduction of 20% or 80% of the 199.2 you see at year 2008, that's our target of 159.4 gallons per day per capita. So that's a magic number, and that's something that we track continually. Immediately after the drought and the recession of 2009, we were actually under that number already, and most agencies were. But it's been creeping up a little bit. In addition to the 20/20 target, there was also a mandate for a 2015 target, which was 15% reduction. So, and that's highlighted. Both of the mandated targets, those are both mandated targets, are highlighted. The one for 2015 is 179.3. We're well below that one. But this table, as you can see, we project into the future, so there's a lot of assumptions in this table. What is the production in water going to be? What's the population going to be? Population is not a very accurate number, especially to track something like this. We maybe get updates for our specific district boundaries once every 5 years, I think, when a census comes out, and we have to, guess in between, have to interpolate in between to come up with those numbers. But that's our best guess at what it would be. Obviously, we're not going to project that we're not going to meet the target. We're always going to project that we're going to meet the target. But what it tells us is that we've got to step up some efforts to get there in conservation, and we do that in our urban water management plan. We have specific outlined procedures, a plan, a strategy to get there as well. Now, because population isn't such a great number to look at, I can't look month to month at population, the numbers doesn't change throughout the year. We do another graph that we actually look at a rolling average, and we've presented this to you before, and we'll continue to present this to you to update. And what we look at is information that we have readily available, which is by meter. Instead of by person, by meter. We know how many meters we bill every month. We know what our water production is every month. So we look at our base meter, which is the 5/8 and 3/4 inch meters. That's over 80%, about 83% of our meters are of this size. So we take a look at that. This is a rolling average, so it takes out seasonality. Those peaks and valleys are not from because it's hot or that month or it's cold that month. No, it's actually a 12-month average. And as you can see, I'm going to go over and point to this thing. It's ironic here that we've been increasing a little bit each month. When this line increases, just means that the usage per meter in the current month is more than the same month the previous year. When the governor did his proclamation, Governor Brown, on January 17th, had to ask for another 20%. Ironically, it was right here. That's January. And instead of reduction, we had a slight increase every month, because of the extremely dry weather conditions and such. So your staff report also outlines some of the things we will be doing and have done. Joint efforts with the city as well for some outreach and some education for residences, and also for a program called H2O to HOAs, to encourage HOAs to attend with their landscapers and see what they can do to reduce water. Also, the next step would be letters, specific letters going out to those individuals that are in Tier 4, the highest tier of usage. We'll actually do a query and say, okay, let's isolate the highest users per meter category and actually do direct outreach to them. And just so you know, too, this tracking is distinguished from the regulations, and General Manager Lamb will talk about that in his report, the regulations that just came out yesterday. This is a long-term look. The regulations that came out yesterday from the State Water Resources Control Board is an emergency, short-term now. We need to conserve now. So we continue to track this, as well as the new regulations as well. So it's just for information only, and I'd be glad to answer any questions you have. We'll keep tracking this and reporting back to you.
Questions from the board?
No.
I have a couple. I mean, SBX 7 sounded really good, but it's kind of antiquated now. From my understanding, I don't know its relevance in today's world, because we're about to be asked to reduce it a lot more than SBX 7 ever did.
Well, the SBX 7 is still the long-term projection, and that was through 2020. And it was for the purpose of, what's that thing we do? The Urban Water Management Act, which says you need to conserve water, not for the sake of just conserving water, but conserving water for the sake of beneficially using the waters of the state of California. So it still is a valid goal as to how we can just change our lifestyle. That's the long-term intent of what the governor, when he signed the bill into action, was. It wasn't for a specific benefit of anything in general. It was to just basically use the waters of the state of California more efficiently. The whole issue that we're going through now that I report on is more of a drought-related, what's going on with the state and what do we do. So they're really two distinct issues. There is no mandate from the state as of yesterday to actually increase more conservation. It's just to put rules into effect that are now enforceable. So that's the difference between what you have from by 2020 and what the state board did yesterday. So they're two different approaches.
This hasn't been repealed, it's still there.
Still valid.
And a question I have, which just popped up as you were talking about, are people that buy water that are in Category 4, water hogs. Do we charge them more for sewer?
If they're a business, yes, because we charge businesses on flow. So-
What about if they're a residential house?
No, we don't.
Why not?
It's the same. That's the bulk of our businesses right now, or excuse me, our customers right now, and that's something that we're looking into. Remember, I reported back and report periodically on our cost of service study, and so that's a consideration coming up. So we'll be looking at that as well.
That's the strength of
Changing that.
sewage, what they do or don't do.
Right.
That's that whole
And I
thing.
know we're doing that commercial, I didn't know if we were doing that residential.
Residential is-
Water hogs
it's-
are putting more water into the sewer system than what you thought they would put.
Yeah, it's 89% of our meters, and we bill it, I think it comes out 110% is where we end up going out of tier 1, or tier 2 rather, which is the normal for all the homes. But when we go through the master plan study, what it shows is that on average, the gallons per day per acre coming into the sewer is very consistent. Where the bigger demand is for the people that are water hogs is because they have outdoor landscaping in a much larger lot, not necessarily the house. So the house doesn't put out a proportional amount of sewage based upon the amount of water they use. Businesses do because they don't increase irrigation outside, nor do they have the lush irrigation. That's why the two are distinct
A
between them.
lot of separate irrigation used for businesses, and that's where the most variation is.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's a report and file?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
Okay, now the one we've all been waiting for. 3.7, capital improvement projects update. Update it.
Thank you, President Martin, members of the board. This is the quarterly update for the capital improvement projects. And this is basically the year-end update because it ended in June 30th, and we bring this to you in July when we have the year-end numbers. So this starts on page 39 of your packet, and as you may recall, this is just a general view of the district with all its facilities, and they're numbered basically from north to south as far as the capital improvements for each sheet. So starting with the first one, which is the north pressure station. This is both the first and second one are pressure reducing stations that are some of our oldest pressure reducing stations. They're in the northwest quadrant of our district, basically the foothills that are above Vista. And both of these, starting with the north, is really in design. And what we're looking at is upgrading or automating the SCADA system and basically having telemetry brought to there, power brought to there, so this way they can be viewed, operated, and controlled from here at the district. As far as the update here, basically we're at 90% plans and specifications, and we're actually working with SDG&E on where to get power and how much, what's that's going to cost and what actually physically we have to do. The second one,
A quick question, James. So
Yes.
you're planning on $120,000 to pay for a SCADA system?
yeah, it's going to be some upgrades to the actual equipment, new electrical, new telemetry system, electrical drop. But not only this area, unfortunately, it's not like there's electrical right there next to us. We have to bring electrical to the site. So that's the budget currently, and then when we get the engineer's estimate, we'll adjust it accordingly.
Thank you.
So the second one, south pressure reducing station. This one is a little bit larger system. It includes a little bit more upgrades, both internal for mechanical, clay valve system inside, and the vault itself, and including basically we're at the same phase in this one at 90% plans and specifications, and we're also have this one in with SCG&E currently.
And again, I'm wondering too, how are you gonna get electrical power up there?
Well, there's electrical in the area. It's just a matter of upgrading the transformer. Probably SCADA system does not use high power. It's just running lines over, working with SDG&E, seeing what the requirements are going to be. There are houses in the area. They're in an area close to houses. There's electrical, and if you're familiar with the area, they're kind of larger lots on septic. So there's some space between houses, and there's also space between where the electrical is. One of them, I believe, is fairly close. I can't remember whether it's north or south. The other one has a little bit longer drop. And we also discovered that it has a small transformer, and SCG&E needs upgrade of that transformer just because it's already at capacity.
Are these underground lines you run, or are they above ground, or?
The runs, there's above ground lines in the area, and that'll be a condition of SCG&E, whether they're above ground or underground will be conditioned. So
Thank you.
they'll probably make us put it underground.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Yes.
Sir.
So how do you transmit your data?
Basically, there's going to be an antenna, and actually, Ed, if you'd like to help me with the actual SCADA portion of it.
All of the data for our SCADA telemetry comes through a radio system that the district owns. It's spread spectrum, so it's not a licensed band, and it hops through different channels, so it's very secure and very robust. So actually, the more radios we add, the better it gets.
Cool.
We got away from phone lines after the '96 fire, which burned through the same area the Cocos fire did.
Yeah.
And we waited weeks for AT&T to get their lines back up.
Right.
So we learned a good lesson back then, which went to radio.
Okay, thank you.
The next project is the, whoops, skipped one here, is the desalination water connection. So as the board is aware, we have an agreement with the CWA to purchase 3,500 acre-feet of desal water per year. And we brought to the board just recently the agreement with CWA for partial construction of our connection facility. The district's going to go out and basically self-perform or go out to bid and construct the remaining portions to make the connection to an existing connection facility with County Water Authority. Right now, we're still basically completed the contract with CWA. We have them in hand, and we're waiting for plans and specifications from the County Water Authority to move forward. They want to get done with their contract first. They're still in negotiation with the contractor, Poseidon and KSD, and so they're going to push our project until they know that we won't be tripping over each other. And I've been told that hopefully we'll get them in the fall. So I don't know if any other information's come in. Next project, project 4, Linda Vista Sewer East. This project's actually in construction. If you've driven by the intersection of Linda Vista and Las Posas, you've probably seen some of the work. Most of the work is happening at night. So you probably don't see the contractor out there. Although now the next portion going down Linda Vista, that'll be daytime work. So we'll be out there basically working during the day until we get to Linda Vista and via Veracruz. So this is about 3,600 feet of 8-inch pipe that's being replaced with a larger diameter pipe. We have a contractor on board, and basically we have no outstanding issues at this point. So we're still in the honeymoon stage of the contract, so everything's good.
I have a quick question. The disclaimer or the work notice that is on Linda Vista heading westbound is a 4x8 board up there with all the wording saying that Vallecitos is doing the work, blah, 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 blah. Vallecitos is not doing the work. We're subcontracting it out. Shouldn't that be the contractor on there?
We're still the owner of the project as far as the city looks at us, as far as the permits being
Okay.
issued. Yeah, we're still bottom line.
So
we're
if
the
someone has
owners.
a problem, they know to call you
Yeah.
guys, and then you know to call.
Instead of the
contractor.
city.
Yeah, instead of the
It's a
city.
condition from the city.
Yeah.
I only saw one of those signs up. Is that normal? Or there's more, I haven't noticed them?
There was one up on Grand also, on Grand, right by where the creek is, where the hotel is going to
Yeah.
go. There's one there, and there's one wherever they're working, so wherever they're
That's the one
working.
that I saw. Is
Yeah,
that one? It's not?
wherever they're working, they'll have a corridor, but the city basically designates where they want those signs.
Okay, thank you.
Next project is Knoll Road. This is a small in-house design project. Knoll Road right out here, basically from McDonald's out into the middle of San Marcos Boulevard. And it's only about 300 feet of 8-inch pipe. And basically during our routine maintenance, we discovered that there's an offset in the belly, or at least a belly in this pipe, and it needs to be replaced. Unfortunately though, when you get out into the middle of San Marcos Boulevard, that's actually Caltrans right away. So currently, right now, we're complying with the Caltrans traffic control plans. We're submitting our first submittal into Caltrans. We're going through that process. So that project, even though it's a small project, will take a little while due to the Caltrans permit required.
James, will that work be done at night? Because that's a
We're not
pretty
at that point, but
busy
most likely
intersection.
that intersection will be done at night. Once we get onto Knoll Road, closer to McDonald's, we could probably do that section during the day. But with only 300 feet, I got a feeling the contractor will probably just bust out the whole thing at night. So.
Thanks.
Next project, Rock Spring Sewer Replacement. There's about 3,000 feet of 8-inch sewer that needs to be upsized to 12 and 15 in Rock Springs. Most of it goes through that green belt between homes, right off of Rock Springs. Basically, we're looking at 90% plans and specs are completed, and we have actually an environmental document to comply with the CEQA process that's going to be coming to the board soon. We're going to finish up that job and basically hopefully get out to construction later this fiscal year, towards the end of the year. You can see the outstanding issues is we need to get a property agent on board because we have new easements that need acquiring. We need to complete the plans and also bring the environmental document to the board for adoption, or actually initially for circulation and then adoption. And then we also have to start talking with the wildlife agencies because they do consider that green belt, even though it's just a grass green belt with a little swell going through it, basically a wetland area for some reason. So again, depending on that, construction may get pushed off.
And just asking ahead of time, we're gonna be extremely sensitive to any fugitive fumes coming during construction, because it's in the middle of a neighborhood.
Yes, definitely. As a matter of fact, in a sewer like this, it's pretty standard residential, pass through with normal slopes. The fugitive fume issue is typically minor. I don't believe there's any real odor issues in the area currently. Next project is Lift Station 1. The board may recall this is the project that the district went out and got grant funding for, and also got additional funding through Orange Grove Power Plant for offset of recycled water production. So with this project here, what we've completed is the 100% plans and specs. We went ahead and pre-purchased the pump, which takes 16 to 18 weeks to receive. That's why we pre-purchased them. And then we're also secured the funding, and the number came in around $340,000. We just got the final numbers about a month ago. And we also secured that $150,000 funding for offset of potable water use, since this will generate additional recycled water use. You can see for the outstanding issues, we still need to receive the pump, which is scheduled to come in late September. And we still need to bid out the project. So we're hoping to get the 100% plans and specs in this month, and hopefully get it out to bid in August. And that'll be about the right time for the contractor to be on board, get some of the work done, and then hopefully the pump shows up on time. So,
A quick question, I'm assuming that pumps, there's no such thing as an off-the-shelf pump. They all
No.
have to be specifically made for that specific to jack the price up. Cost more.
the pumps are expensive, yes. And even if you pick an off-the-shelf pump, they're still expensive, and they still take many weeks to get.
Thank you.
San Marcos Interceptor Phase 1. This project is the portion of the whole San Marcos Interceptor that goes from Lift Station 1 all the way to almost City Hall, through what will be the future Creek District, across the freeway, behind Best Buy, and through the RV lot. This portion was the portion from behind Best Buy, the tunnel underneath the freeway, and of course through the RV lots and underneath the homes at Johnston Lane, and all the way to where we terminated our pipe burst, so basically behind the apartment complexes, adjacent to the creek off of Twin Oaks. This project is actually now done. We've paid out retention. You can see from the financial side, the billings that the contractor projected, the actuals, and we had one change order. We had many change order requests, but at the end of the day, we had one change order for a credit of $250,000. So the project was an outstanding project, came in well, and we came in under budget on this one. So, and basically the only thing left now is to meet the Wildlife Agency's criteria. We have a 5-year, which we have 3.5 years left, of maintenance and monitoring of invasive species removal in that corner lot next to the creek, basically San Marcos Boulevard and Twin Oaks. And we have about 3.5 years left on that.
So the carnival was this past weekend.
Yes, but the carnival is further up. Ours is right next to the creek. So there was a plant called arundo there that was eradicated, but arundo is very aggressive. It comes back, so they require 5 years of maintenance and monitoring on that. So basically more roundup, more hatchets. So
Just out of curiosity, that's good to require 5 years, but what happens in the 6th year?
don't know. So. Let's see, San Marcos Interceptor Phase 2. So this is the remaining portion of that San Marcos Interceptor job. So I'll take it from Via Veracruz, heading west all the way to our Lift Station 1, possibly maybe only to Pacific, depending on where we end up. We're basically in the middle of design on that project. We basically have gone through a new alignment study. We've met with the city as early as this week on it, and we're basically trying to finalize the alignment, find out our corridors, and work with the city on their future development and projects, and still not give up our appropriate rights and the fact that we'll have to maintain and access this pipe for a long time. So we're working through that process currently, and we hope to basically this fiscal year basically be design, land acquisition, no construction within this fiscal year budgeted. MRF solids force main. This is basically a little bit over a mile pipe coming from our Meadowlark treatment plant out to Melrose, all the way over the hill on Melrose, all the way to just about Poinsettia. So Basically, the existing force main, the board may recall, is that old 6-inch ductile iron line that was put in by a developer that has a historic problem of breaking, especially in the middle of winter. But and it's a mess every time it breaks, because it's not only is this not sewer, it's solid, so it's concentrated sewer. So this is the new line to help relieve that. That old pipe is past its useful age. We're putting in a non-corrosive pipe here, PVC, and we're through 90% design. We've done all the potholing, we're reviewing specifications. Basically, as far as outstanding items, we need to complete the 100% and we need to bid the project. Environmental has already been completed on this job. Next project, moving right along, Metal Arc Tanks 1 and 2. This is a refurbishment job, or Metal Arc Tanks. They sit basically, the east side of Rancho Santa Fe Road above our treatment plant. And as the board may recall, there's 2 tanks on site, a small one, a large one, that have not been recorded, to my knowledge, at least since they've been built, or for a long time. The rafters were in bad shape. We did structural replacement of the rafters. You can see, basically, we've started the construction. We've had a few change orders. We had some additional rafter changes that we had to when we went in there, and you actually inspect them. They look pretty good. We bumped up the number in the bid as far as the amount of square footage of rafter replacement, amount of steel. And we were close, but we weren't quite there. So we had a small change order for that. We had another change order because the tank actually has a lot of ports on the side of the tank, basically penetrations with valves on it. Each one of those is a possible vandalism where somebody could break it, or somebody could access the tank. So we went through and removed all the ones that were not necessary, work with water operations on that to remove those. And then as we were working on everything, the bypass valve sits on the outside of the tank was not operable. So we went ahead and replaced that. So those are the 3 change orders you see on that job. And really, there's no other outstanding issues. We're hoping to complete that job here the next month and bring it to the board probably by September. San Luis Pump Station. So, next up, San Luis Pump Station. This is the pump station that is necessary to get 2,700 acre-feet of water from the Liebenheim and put it into the San Leo Hills area. We actually bid the job. The bid opening was yesterday. So the job came in a little higher than expected. So we'll be bringing this to the board with probably an amendment request for budget and moving forward with it. And we're also going to be working on an operational guideline between VWD and OMWD on how we operate the system, how we call water, all the logistics, that all the little details that aren't covered in the agreement. So. Okay, so the next table here is basically a summary table. And the important things to pick from this is, if you look at the projected monthly, that's what the contractors tell us they're going to build, and then the actuals. And I have it in graph form next, so you can see it from the graph, so you don't have to study these numbers. But the important thing to take out here is we had 7 change orders that we that were executed. And because of that big $250,000 credit change order, we actually had a negative almost $200,000 change order rate this fiscal year, which is great. It almost never happens. So a negative 2.4%. So as far as the engineering group, we had roughly $8 million in contracts construction contracts that were actually constructed and billed over the fiscal year. The next columns down basically are your design contracts. There was basically $2.8 million in design contracts, with about $1.9 million spent to date over the fiscal year. Of course, on the CM contracts, we only had 1 construction manager, which was for that San Marcos Interceptor, and that job's complete, and they billed out 100%. And the geo-environmental miscellaneous, majority of that is that mitigation 5-year monitoring. That's almost 300 of the 396,000. The remaining roughly 100,000, that's all for our in-house designs. We need geotech, we need surveying, other expertise that we don't have in-house that make up for all these other jobs. With that, basically you can kind of see the percentages where the group is and what we're working on. The last page here, page 53, is just a chart with the, it's purple on my sheet, so the purple being what the contractors tell us they're going to build on a monthly basis, the blue being the actual. And it's very normal to see that the contractors think they're going to make all their money up front and actually gets pushed off. And then, of course, the yellow is just a cumulative of what the contractors tell us, and the blue line is the actual. So This is just a general format, and you guys will be seeing this every quarter, so I won't go over it every quarter. So I figure I'll go over the first two and let you guys ask questions after that. With that, if there's any questions on the project, I'd be happy to answer. If not, it was just for information.
Questions from the board?
No, it just seems like you're doing a great job, and, you know, looking at your cumulative projected and your actual cumulative, it's pretty much right on, so.
This year, yes.
Yeah, well, that's what we're talking about.
It's
So,
early.
You gotta take it while you got it.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. I'll take the credit this year.
Yeah, no, nice job, and as well as the change orders.
Thank you.
I have one quick question. I should know this, but I don't. You've been working great on these CIP projects. When do we start getting the new CIP projects into the pipeline?
That's an excellent question. I'm having a meeting with my staff.
That's why I asked it.
I'm having a meeting with my staff to basically look at our resources and start assigning projects to people. There's not, if I recall, there's not a tremendous amount of new large CIPs. Most of the larger ones are these same ones in their carryovers. Some of the new CIPs that were more coming from operations and operations staff, whether it's purchasing equipment or installing equipment on their own. Most of the big capital jobs, most of these are carryovers, and I don't believe there may only be a couple new ones that are really for engineering. So you won't see a lot of addition, but whatever we do have, we're gonna put into the spreadsheet and start tracking it, and then you'll see it appropriately as soon as we start working on it on the next quarterly. And if you look at the map itself, that's all the projects that we're working on. The ones that we give reports on are only the ones that are active. So.
Okay. So when do you see the next large CIP from engineering?
Well, we still have a bunch of large ones left, but we basically, I think this year and next year, we'll have a lull in any new large CIP starting. Year 3 in the budget, I believe there's some new tanks and some other new projects that may be phasing in, but obviously we look at that on an annual basis and adjust the need. Really, the largest new project is the master plan, and we're working on that currently. So.
Great, thank you, James. Great report. Great
Thank you, James.
report as
Thank
always. All right, reports, general manager.
Yeah, nothing new. Just a couple things. We did trail a couple of items here to the next board meeting, but one of the sheets I passed out to you, just for your information, that's actually related to the fog ordinance review that Corey was going to do. This is just an article that we put out in the City of San Marcos, their 360 newsletter, San Marcos 360. So this is part of the outreach that we've done with us, so just hold on to that for the next board meeting as part of the update. The August 20th board meeting, we will not have a quorum because of the CASA conference in Monterey for the sewer. So we will be taking a look on the 6th as to what our projection is for agenda items on the 20th. If it's something that we don't have it, like we did earlier in the year when we had the AQUA conference, we don't need it, we'll just adjourn the meeting and not have it. So we'll be bringing that back to you at the next board meeting to make a decision on that one. The voter packets that we did receive have been passed out for those that are up and running for the election. We did receive those from the registrar of voters. Anybody else that does contact the district, we do refer them directly to the registrar of voters. We don't take on the responsibility of telling them what, where, who, how, or why. We don't want to get involved in that quagmire, so we just direct them straight to the registrar of voters. So, but we did get the packets. I believe Diane S. passed them out to you. The fun thing. You've got a packet of items before you with the paperclip on them. On July 9th, the State Water Resources Control Board, at the direction of the governor, issued some new water conservation edicts coming down to all of the water agencies statewide. This isn't just San Diego. This is a statewide mandate. And the concern is obviously, I think Director Martin heard it this morning at the presentation by the Secretary Baird. Normally, the state of California collects and distributes about 5 million acre feet of water that they distribute. This year, they distributed 200,000 acre feet of water. So that'll put it into perspective on just how severe the drought is and how much the curtailment has been. You may recall that we went to voluntary stage 1 level 1 several months back at the urging of the governor to get conservation into effect. So we go into that. Level 1 is actually started just at the discretion of the general manager, brought it to the board just to let you know we'd be moving into it. You've heard some of the press over the past few months on how the state of California, Central Valley North is in dire straits. Los Angeles South is in conservation mode, but Los Angeles South, because of Met, we have the Colorado River Aqueduct System. So we're bringing water from the east side of the Sierras, which is actually over 100% of their rainfall for the year. When you look at Northern California, they were greatly reduced, so all the reservoirs, there is no rainfall. So that's been the saving grace for Met, plus all the facilities that the water authority's built, Diamond Valley Reservoir that Metropolitan's built. You know, billions of dollars have been spent in the Southern California region to help with this drought. But kind of the bottom line is Met is looking at taking about 1 million acre feet out of storage next year. They got a demand of 1.9 to 2 million acre feet. They've got about 800,000 acre feet in resources from the Colorado River. The balance has to come out of storage. So they're pulling out of storage, but it's one of those things, year to year to year, can get worse. There's also a big water bond coming up in November. So basically what the regional board has done is said, okay, everybody, and this is now being mandated as a law, not as a volunteer or not as up to your discretion, we are being told we need to adopt these procedures. So July 9th, they came out with the first set of rules. The Water Authority, on our behalf, with their input, they met with staff. We had a MAM meeting, the Member Agency Managers meeting last Tuesday. As a kind of an emergency meeting to go through and get more comments in. On the 15th, when we were meeting, the reps from the Water Authority were up at the state at the meeting, again, getting things squared away. And one of the biggest things that we had concern about, and Tom hit on it when he gave you the 20 by 2020 update, one of the big concerns we have is the regional board is mandating a standard reporting procedure by everybody. So by the 15th of every month, every agency has to turn their demands in to the state. So what's going to happen is the Water Authority gives us our demands. We give them right back to the Water Authority to confirm it. Then we all turn around and send them up to the state. So what we're trying to do is get the state to allow us, and I don't know if this got approved yesterday or not, let the Water Authority aggregate our demands as one report and send it up. In our fear being, what we don't want to happen is a regional board staff person comparing demands. Last thing we need is somebody looking at San Francisco at 83 gallons per day per capita and looking at Santa Fe Irrigation District at 270 gallons per day per capita. Because again, Santa Fe's got 10 acre lots and everything goes with it. So that's one of the big concerns we have is they can't just look at it and say one size fits all. So we got some pretty good concessions. They were very open and receptive to it. Those new rules were in fact adopted yesterday by the state board.
Reporting was delayed.
Pardon me?
Reporting was delayed till October
Yeah,
15th.
okay, so they're still working on the reporting part to how we can work through that. So what you've got before you are a couple of items that the board will be seeing in the very near future. The Water Authority will be talking about this at their July 24th board meeting. So in 2 weeks, on Thursday, they'll be where's that next week? They'll be looking at this to go to mandated conservation. The state is not asking us to achieve another 5, 10, 15, or 20% reduction. What they're saying is everybody needs them to be in a mandatory restrictions, a mandatory conservation, plus the ability to enforce those restrictions. In the voluntary level, that's all it is voluntary. So unless we see somebody with the water just going down the street, I don't want to say it's business as usual, but it's, hey, it's voluntary, everybody pay attention. You can see from our numbers, we're still well below where we want to be, and the conservation is continuing. What the mandatory thing is, you have just the talking points. This is just the talking points that we have that we put on our website today, not all of them, but we're giving it out to customer service. We'll be issuing press releases and everything else. And you also have ordinance number 162 in that packet. That is our drought response conservation program. So if you want to take this and just become familiar with it, what we're going to be recommending, if the Water Authority takes the action, is on page 3 of the ordinance under section 4, which is drought response level 2, which is a mandatory conservation practices. When you actually go through those practices, you'll see they're not overly onerous to anybody. It's common sense things. Don't wash down your driveways. If you have a hose and you're washing your car, make sure there's an automatic turn off on the hose. Water your yard only every 3 times a week in the summer, 1 time a week during the winter. So they're all 10 minutes, no more than 10 minutes per station. All of the items that we have in our level 2 meet the state mandate. So we'll be in good shape from that standpoint. Going to the drought alert level 2 does take board action. That's not something that's discretionary at the general manager's level. So this does have to come back to the board for action. We are anticipating the Water Authority will adopt this going to level 2 at their next board meeting. The policy does indicate is when the Water Authority notifies us that because of cutbacks, that's when we have to bring this back to you to take action. So this is going to move forward fairly quickly. Just to give the board a little more food for thought, because this is going to heat up going into the next year, Metropolitan is starting to look at their allocation plan for where water goes in a severe drought. Their staff started working on it this week. They anticipate a general plan of attack that will be presented to their board probably in December, give or take. But from what we're hearing, they don't anticipate making any decisions on any allocations or anything else until March or April. So the trick is, if we have another dry year, like we had this year, but there are not decisions made until March or April, we could already be well into that process of going from a 20%, 15% mandatory to suddenly 30 or 40%. And that's when it starts to hurt very quickly. We don't know where that's going to happen. The Metropolitan is starting to get the sense from everybody that I was meeting with one of their reps today after the conference, just kind of giving the retail side. Because you got to remember, Met's a wholesale agency, so is the Water Authority. They don't have to deal with our customers, we do. And the worst thing we can do is go from 15 to 20 to 30 to 40% curtailment in a matter of weeks. It just goes to show we didn't think about it a whole lot. The fact that we don't have any control over that doesn't usually enter the conversation. So I also attached for you resolution number 1441, just for your information, so you're aware of where this goes. If we go into this process early next year, if we don't have a wet year, and if a bunch of other things don't happen, we would probably go to level 3. Level 3 is where the board mandates that there's no new water connections. And if there is a development that's out there, if they haven't obtained a valid building permit and paid our fees and paid the Water Authority fees, they have no entitlement, they have no guarantee. So even some of the developments that we've already approved, if we went to a level 3 and they had not paid their fees beforehand, they're out of luck. They don't get the meter. So this is just food for thought for the board coming down the road, as this could be very far-reaching if next year gets bad. Met's looking at already at their water transfers, their spot water deals where they can buy water from the Central Valley. They're talking to all of the big IID. They're talking to all of the big, because you have to remember there's other agencies that have prior rights to Colorado before Met does. So they're reaching out, Palo Verde Irrigation District. They're reaching out to all of them to see if they can take water. They're looking at borrowing water from IID next year if need be, because they have prior rights. But if you borrow, you got to pay it back. And how do you pay it back if you don't have anything coming down to pay it back with? So there's a lot of things coming. This is just for your information today. Like I said, we've already posted on the web the items that are on there. I'll be attending the board meeting with Director Evans at the Water Authority to make sure we get everything coming back to the board, and this will be on the agenda for your consideration in August. So it's going to be very interesting as this thing continues to develop.
Quick question?
Yes.
Stage 3, that would be the San Diego County Water Authority.
Again, our policy, the way it's written, is all of the agencies, we had a model ordinance. A lot of people went kind of astray of the model, but now that's coming back to roost, I'd say, when they're suddenly being told by the state, well, we don't care what you do voluntarily. You're now going to make this mandatory. The big player on this is the city of San Diego, because obviously they've got huge concerns of suddenly taking the direction to go to mandatory curtailment. Just not something they want to do, but the mayor's very well aware of it. I think you heard some of what he spoke about this morning. He realizes it. But stage 3 does require board approval, and it's triggered off of the Water Authority doing it. So
You could end up in a situation where some authorities adopt it and some don't.
all the things that the state just did, they have to show either they have an ordinance adopted that makes it mandated and they can enforce it, or they have to show some like vehicle that shows they're doing it. They don't get to just say, no, we're not doing it. If we get to stage 3, at the way it's going, I'm going to guess the state's going to probably kick in and help mandate some additional things so that there's limits on your ability to choose to not do it. I think
Stage 3 is my concern, because you're stopping building
Yep.
progress, and that's not happening now, but the possibility is, I'd like to know that everyone in San Diego County is doing that
Yeah.
before I'm voting on to do it for us.
Most of them did include that provision, some have it in stage 2. So there's some anxiety right now, some agencies are suddenly going to stage 2 and saying, pulling the plug on development. I have a feeling in the next 2, the biggest problem, they gave us these rules on July 9th and said to impose them as of August 1st. Wow. I mean, you got board meetings, you got policies that have to be written. A lot of them are gonna be going back and modifying their ordinances to comply specifically with this so that they don't jump the gun or pull the trigger when they don't need to. So this is gonna heat up, no pun intended, over the next 6 months, give or take.
Questions from the board? Director Senna?
If we have a dry, as it pertains to the capital facility piece, if we do have a dry winter, and it looks like, 2-3 months, I think we all kind of knew we were gonna be going to stage 2
Mhm.
at some point this year. So if we're getting into the first part of next year and we're all thinking kind of the same way that, hey, stage 3 is coming, can we have some communication with the developers that have not paid their capital facility fees?
I'm sure
At
they're
that
paying,
point?
yeah, I'm sure they're paying attention to this as well as we do, but yeah, we'll be making sure we reach out, because there's no prohibition in the policy. Because if you go back and read the policy on the capacity fees, it says they can come in and pay them at any point. So even though we've approved the project, they may have gotten a building permit, they have the right to come in at any point. So we'll make sure they're
So,
aware of that.
yeah, can you bring that back to us maybe in Q4, just so, I'm thinking maybe we might want to be a little bit more proactive about it and send out just an advisement to them.
Yeah, well, the water year begins in September.
Okay.
Yeah, so once we hit September, October, November, actually it's the end of September, so once the water year hits, then we'll bring it back.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then just the second question, more out of curiosity than anything else, the enforcement piece of that, is that on us? Will we have our employees out and about driving neighborhoods, or is that on the sheriff's department? Is that on the neighbors telling on neighbors?
Mostly that,
Okay.
No, what we have is the district does have the authority by law to actually, I don't want to say deputize is the wrong word, but we do have the right to authorize staff to issue citations. We've never had to in the past. Common sense, go by, hang a flyer on the door. Outreach like that has always worked pretty well. I hate to say it, but we do rely very strongly on neighbor, telling on neighbor. We get a lot of that. What we find is we also find a lot of neighbors just don't like each other, so they use it for their reason of getting their neighbor bad. We do have the right to enforce that. There are additional penalties that are being included in the state board's rules, but those are at a legal level. If there's like waste of water in California, the water code defines outdoor water use as not a good use of water anyway. They consider it wasteful use. The state and the feds have the right to fine us. That is in the legislation if we do it. They would only do that if the board decided not to take any action, said to heck with you, we're not going to do it, then they would be coming after us. We have the right per this policy for our staff to actually issue citations at staff level and receive the funds. We've only had to do that with a couple of people in the past because everybody complies. But essentially, all 112 of the employees driving around, we'll be giving them cards, give them a little notice to hang on the door. We notice water running, stuff like that. So we monitor it. There's also the fact that, and Tom will be looking into this, he's writing the staff memo for the board for this consideration, is we also go into the drought pricing on the water. So instead of 3 tiers, we go to 6 tiers. And then it ramps up the penalties for inappropriate water use. The tier premiums is what helps pay for the conservation and all the outreach. So that'll be something we'll be bringing back. I have a feeling what we'll be doing is bringing it back, saying these are your options. However, we would like to monitor it, see if we're continuing to get conservation. If we are, probably let's not adopt the higher tier rates quite yet, and maybe not worry about the enforcement quite yet. But we'll just be bringing that to you at the meeting so you can give us some direction on how firmly you would like us to enforce these rules.
Yep, thank you.
Then the only other item is, James did mention it, the Orange Grove Energy. They gave me a call the other day and want to know if any of you guys would like to actually go see the facility, which I believe is basically an engine mounted sideways with a gas feed to it, and they fire it up. But if any of you would like to, I'll have Diane send an email out and we'll pick a date. And if anybody want to go see the facility, we'd be more than happy to arrange that to her.
Okay.
And I think, did I miss anything on the water issue? I think that's pretty much it right now. So like I said, you're going to have some pretty good deals, issues to deal with in the next few months. That's all I have.
Thank you. District Legal Counsel, Jeff Scott.
Very briefly, Mr. Chairman, as a practical matter, what Dennis said, a lot of this discretion and options is basically going to be taken out of your hands. I mean, if it goes like it has historically, when they come down with these emergency regulations, basically you just, the water authority comes down with the mandates and everybody follows. There's not, it's everybody gets on board. And as a practical matter, it doesn't matter whether the developer's paid his fees. He can be all the way through the process unless he's actually hooked up and there's physically people there at that property. It's an emergency. You're not going to get any water to it. So everything does come to a halt, and we've been on the brink of that before. So, it could be very interesting. I just forwarded you an article when I was listening to James. Was in the San Diego Union a few days ago. Basically, it just talks about the climate of construction and public contracting right now. And we've just gone through a period of about 4 or 5 years when we have seen the best, probably the cheapest contracting that we've ever experienced for the last 25 years. And it's kind of changing now. We're seeing it up in Northern California more than here, but the jobs are coming in a little bit higher than they have been in the last few years. And the only other item is the AB 194, the Campo bill is still alive. And we thought this spring that it was dead. And that's the bill that last year criminalized it relates to the Brown Act, and it criminalized the chairman if the chairperson thwarted anybody from criticizing other fellow board members or staff members. And it actually had the DA bringing some, I think, misdemeanor charges, but having the authority to do that. So that fortunately was trailed or was killed, but it's back, and he's now what he wants to do, and this is just, this is an example. We lecture board members not to micromanage, the managers and the staff. And this is an example where the legislature is trying to micromanage how you run meetings. And the evil here is that now we want to expand the Brown Act to allow public testimony before and during consideration of an item. So, I mean, that's crazy. I mean, it makes it very, very difficult to run meetings when you're constantly being interrupted by the public. You can't, it's like a dinner table discussion instead of a formal board meeting. So hopefully we'll keep track of this, but that's one of the number of things that this bill does. And it's just unfortunate. It's unnecessary. We really do have plenty of protection in the Brown Act currently. So I don't know, why this keeps popping up, but it has. So in any event, we'll keep you posted, and that's all I have.
Thank you. Betty's not here, so County Water Authority report we can hold off on. Encino Wastewater Authority, do you have anything?
Sure. We had a PFC meeting Tuesday, July 8th, and we talked about auditors' communication with those charged with governance, investment policy annual review, revised purchasing policy and procedure, and resolution appropriating funds for fiscal year 2015, operating the capital program budgets and establishing controls thereon. And it's next Wednesday we have our board meeting.
Right.
Thank you. Director's reports on travel, conferences, seminars. Anybody have anything? I have one. Oh, go ahead.
I think we all three of us were at the same breakfast with
Thank you.
General Manager Lamb as well. So attended the CAWA breakfast yesterday. The guest speaker was Dr. Steve Albright. He did a presentation on succession planning, and it was nothing that was earth-shattering or breaking news, but it was a good refresher on the importance of succession planning and kind of the process. Basically, the overall theme of the presentation was it's a good thing and you can't do enough of it. So.
Thank you. I was also at that breakfast, and I thought it was very interesting, because I think that's something that all businesses kind of overlook succession planning. You have it here, which I was glad to see. You have a succession plan, but a lot of them don't, and that can only hurt the district, city, whatever it is they're doing. So I thought it was a really great refresher. Thank you. Today, I went to San Vicente Dam raise, which we heard about already, but it's raised the dam up 117 feet, which gives you 170% more water than what they were able to store. Someday when they get water again, there was a ceremonial turn on of the water, and then as soon as we left, they turned off the water. They did bring up that it came from Twin Oaks, which was very nice, up in beautiful San Marcos. That's where the water was coming through from. It was very interesting. They gave us a piece that looks like this is probably a core.
One of the cores, yeah.
drilling. Here's a piece of a core drilling with San Vicente Dam. Interesting, and things that I did learn from the numerous speakers they had up there was that when the original dam was built, 43 to 47, they actually built it. It's amazing when you look back at those days. They built it with a dam raise in mind, and that made this dam raise so much easier because the forefathers really give a lot of thought to it, which also backs up when I went to Mount Shasta and when I went out to Colorado River. You see these beautiful lift stations, and they bring you back to 1935, which is when they were all built, and they're still the best there are. They don't replace them with new stuff. They don't have SCADA because it's built very well. So it was great to see all the work they've done out there, and it's going to mean a lot to San Diego, to all of us in San Diego. And I didn't realize that we can actually get water from that.
Yep.
I asked Dennis when we were there, because I didn't think there's any way to get water from down there up here, but there is.
Yeah.
So we could get water from it if necessary, but not likely.
Yeah, they wouldn't want to turn, like I said, I think the power demand back then is equivalent to about the city of Escondido, is what I was told. If they turn those pumps on, it's about as much power as the entire city of Escondido uses. That's a
It's
big
expensive
pump.
water.
That's a
Move
big
the water
pump.
the other way.
Pardon?
To move the water.
To move
the
it
other
back
way.
up here.
Yeah, move back up here. Great, and that's all I have. Other business, Board of Education Foundation, Russian River Tour, October 9th through 10th. Begins and ends in Santa Rosa. If you'd like to do that, please see Diane or Ann. Is that Ann now, or is it still you, Diane?
It's still me,
It's still you, okay. See Diane.
for now.
Director's comments, future agenda items? I have a question, and I don't care when in the future, but future agenda items, I brought up to both Dennis and number two. A letter that I was presented when I walked into my bank. They said, hey, what's this letter mean? And I read the letter and I went, I really don't know, but I'll find out for you. And I would like to agendize just the system in which we do that. It might be perfect, I don't know. But for some reason, there were some holes and gaps, because the person was a branch manager who was giving it to me, who's fairly well educated on the financial side, and he didn't understand it. And I didn't really understand it that well, because it looked like you owe us X amount, but we'll let you make us payments of X amount. Thank you very much. I said to Dennis, it reminded me of back in the draft days, when you got home and you opened that piece of mail and said greetings. It was from your draft board. It was kind of like that, only it said Vallecitos on top of it, and by the way, you owe us $8,000, but you know what, we're gonna let you pay us $100 a month. Like, what? You know, so as a business owner, that would be kind of, so just like to go through that as an agenda item, how we actually do it, how this case was handled, and how normal cases are, because if a lot of businesses are getting that, I'm a little concerned that it might be a little too harsh, but there's some circumstances I understand, and we can talk about all of that.
Sure.
So that'd be great, just to see, because our name's on it and our logo is big and proud. And I was like, thank you. And with that, I
Returned.
adjourn the meeting. Thank you very much. Thank you for being here. Thank you, our Pledge of Allegiance superstar, Brooke.